Russian President Vladimir Putin presented Hero of Russia medals to soldiers of Moscow's special military operation in Ukraine. It's been nearly 3 years now. The Russia-Ukraine war still continues. Russian forces launched strikes on Ukrainian military sites, including airfields, railway facilities, and drone assembly sites. Russia also claimed to have taken control of another settlement in Ukraine's Donetsk region. Ukrainian forces have been fighting back, repelling multiple enemy attacks in frontline areas. But the war has come at a huge cost. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has come up with some figures. According to Zelenskyy, nearly 800,000 Russian troops are currently deployed in Ukraine. The Ukrainian president said 198,000 Russian soldiers have been killed and another 550,000 had been injured. On the Ukrainian side, 43,000 soldiers have lost their lives and 370,000 have been injured. After all the fighting, there is a glimmer of hope that the war might be coming to an end. Now, let's take a break from the war zone and move to Paris. The French capital was decked up for the grand reopening of the Notre Dame Cathedral, 5 years after a devastating fire. And guess who were the top guests? US President-elect Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, besides many heads of states. Trump and Zelenskyy were warmly welcomed by French President Emmanuel Macron. But before arriving for the Notre Dame de Paris reopening ceremony, the trio Trump, Zelenskyy and Macron held a meeting inside the Élysée Palace, the official residence of the President of the French Republic in Paris. This was Trump's first overseas trip since winning the presidential election last month. As Trump arrived at the Élysée Palace, Macron gave him a very warm welcome. He shook Trump's hand multiple times and even gave him a few friendly pats on the back, all in front of the cameras. Interestingly, Trump was initially reported to be reluctant to meet Zelenskyy, but Macron convinced Trump to meet Zelenskyy with him.
It certainly seems like the world is going a little crazy right now, and we'll be talking about that. Thank you very much for being here.
Zelenskyy and other European leaders are worried that when Donald Trump takes office next month, he might stop US military aid to Ukraine. According to reports, Macron has argued that Ukraine's defeat, or if it has to agree to a ceasefire on bad terms, it would be seen as a defeat for the US and Trump himself. After the meeting, Zelenskyy said they had a very good and productive talk. Listen to what he said.
I want to thank President Emmanuel Macron for organizing our meeting. It was an important meeting between Emmanuel, me and President Trump. A very good meeting. It's important that it's productive and the atmosphere is important. We are talking about Ukraine. We were talking, of course, only about Ukraine and Ukrainians.
A day after meeting Zelenskyy in Paris, Trump announced that Kiev was ready to make a deal with Moscow to end the war. He said Russian President Vladimir Putin should make efforts towards negotiating a truce. Now, after Trump's call for an immediate ceasefire, Moscow said that Russia is open to talks, but with conditions. Russia said these talks must be based on the Istanbul agreements and on the current situation on the battlefield. So what are the Istanbul agreements? Essentially, they are a proposed peace framework reached in March of 2022 in Turkey, aiming to end the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The agreements suggest that Ukraine would not join NATO, limit its military capabilities, and receive protection from Western countries in the event of an attack. The agreements ultimately stalled in May of 2022. Zelenskyy is now pushing for a diplomatic solution to end the war between Russia and Ukraine. He's suggesting that foreign troops could be stationed in Ukraine temporarily until the country is able to join the NATO military alliance. Zelenskyy plans to discuss Ukraine's membership in NATO with US President Joe Biden soon. This is timely as Biden will be leaving office next month. However, Russian President Putin has made it clear that he wants Ukraine to give up its plans to join NATO and withdraw from 4 regions that Russia claims as its own: Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. Ukraine has become increasingly exhausted after nearly 3 years of full-scale war. Donald Trump has promised to end the war in Ukraine quickly, but he hasn't shared his plan, which is making Kiev anxious about what any future negotiations might look like. Trump has already appointed retired Army General Keith Kellogg as his special envoy for Russia and Ukraine, with the goal of ending the war. Donald Trump once called Ukraine President Zelenskyy the greatest salesman in the world. Why? Because Zelenskyy was able to secure billions of dollars in aid from the United States. As President-elect Trump prepares to take office next month, the current Biden administration is racing against time to use up all the approved funds to support Ukraine. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has announced a significant boost in military aid to Ukraine. The United States will provide nearly $1 billion more in long-term weapon support. The latest package includes additional drones and ammunition for the high-mobility artillery rocket systems, also known as HIMARS, which the U.S. has already supplied. The U.S. has been Ukraine's biggest supporter, accounting for almost 50% of the foreign funding the country has received. The international community is clearly divided on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. While European nations and the US support Ukraine, Russia has the backing of China, Iran, and North Korea. Russia wants to take back Kursk. To achieve this, Russia has deployed a large number of troops, possibly including up to 10,000 soldiers from North Korea. Ukraine has fought hard to control Kursk. As the winter approaches, the US strategy may be to help Ukraine gain as much territory as possible. If Ukraine can hold on to Kursk, it would give them a strong bargaining position in future peace talks. Now the burning question is, will Trump's presidency bring an end to the war, or will it escalate into something even bigger? Only time will tell.